Thanks, Jennifer. Good morning. Thanks for being with us today. As Sean told you, I've been district attorney now for 2 weeks. Everything seems to be going okay so far, but it's early yet today. So one of the things that I have loved about this job is most of you know, one of the jobs of the district attorney's office is to prosecute cases. So if somebody gets in trouble, they get arrested, we prosecute their case. We have a lot of business in that respect. But the most fun and interesting part of our job is figuring out how to prevent that from happening. How do we prevent the crime from happening? My greatest success is if I don't have to prosecute somebody. And if I came this morning and said to you that I really needed to talk to you about a public health crisis, I bet a lot of things would flash through your mind, but it probably would not be domestic violence. And yet, domestic violence is one of the biggest public health issues in our country. If you think about the whole idea of how many people are injured, the lost time for work, the children who witness that kind of violence or perhaps injured themselves, it's an enormous problem. And it's a problem whose prevention has to come from partnerships. Partnerships like this Cut It Out program. We've joined with Empire Beauty both here and in Malden and in Framingham, and as well with our usual law enforcement type partners, the Lowell Police Department, as well as in this area with Alternative House, to really put this together for you, to ask you to help us. Because prevention is really everybody's job. And you may be sitting there thinking, well, I'm not sure how I can do that. And we're going to help you with that today, help you to learn how to be helpful in that prevention effort. And join us in making sure that a crime doesn't happen, or if it does happen, we're stepping in early to prevent repeat incidents and to protect people. Thanks, Sean. So let's think a little bit about, suppose you wanted to disclose. Suppose you're in a relationship where you don't feel safe. And you're going to tell somebody about what's going on at your house. You're going to confide in someone. And think about how hard it might be to do that. Right? Because maybe you think the person's going to think less of you. They're going to be disappointed. Maybe they like, and again, using him and her, maybe they like him. And now you know what you're going to be telling them. Maybe they told you shouldn't be with him, and they're going to be like, yeah, I told you that was going to go bad. So think about whenever you have something hard to tell anybody, whether it's coming into school and telling one of your instructors you didn't do something, telling somebody that you have a responsibility to that you didn't do. What's really hard about that? I mean, aside from the talking, what's the hard physical part about telling somebody? You have to come in and tell me something that that's really going to be difficult.
Admitting to it.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
Admitting to it.
Admitting to it, yeah.
You're disappointed in yourself.
You're disappointed in yourself. And what's going to be hard? What are you going to find hard when you tell me that? How are you going to tend to tell me that? Cry. Okay. You're going to be looking at me?
No.
No, right? I used to call it with my kids, it's the studying your shoes. Like I got something to tell you and I'm telling you this. Okay? So think about that. If one of the hardest things about sharing really personal, really difficult information is, number one, you're looking at the person, right? Looking them in the eyes. As you said, maybe being disappointed or having to admit to it and seeing on their face the blame, the shame, the whatever, whether they're feeling that or you're just seeing it. All right? So think about how that makes whatever the piece of information you have is now harder because you got to look at somebody. When you're working on someone in the salon, what are you looking at for the most part? Right. When you look at their face?
Yeah.
You looking at their face?
Yeah.
Back of their head, right? So, this is why you can be such key partners for us. I'm a person who's got this secret. All right, I'm in trouble. I feel like I'm in danger in my relationship. I feel like my kids might be in danger. I love this guy, but it's just going crazy, and I don't know what to do about it. How much easier is it going to be for me to tell somebody when the person, I don't have to look them in the face? Okay? That is the number one reason why salon professionals become the people who hear them, what people have to say. All right? Everybody here goes and gets their hair done someplace. All right? I've been going to the same place for years and years and years. All right? I've known the woman who cuts my hair longer than I've known my kids. All right? I hear people saying amazing things that they probably would not tell their best friends to the people who are working on them. And I am convinced it is in part because you're behind them. Okay, it's almost like talking to yourself. You know, you get in the car and you kind of talk to yourself a little bit. Well, you can talk, and it's better than that because the person is going to say something to you. They're going to say that's too bad. They're going to feel for you. But you don't have to look them in the face. Okay? And I thought about that when we were doing this program for a long time, about why is it that people tell the person that they might only see every 6 weeks or whatever, these incredibly personal things, and I think that's really it. So you do have that unique opportunity to be a listener for that information, because people are going to feel safe telling you something. And they're going to feel like whatever you might be thinking, whether you're really thinking it or they think you're thinking it, of blaming them or they're stupid or why don't they leave or whatever, they don't have to see that reflected on your face. So that's why we're asking you both to listen when people tell you that, when that comes up or something's out there, or as you get a relationship with people and you start to see maybe the relationship changes, and you've been seeing this person for years and all of a sudden you notice some different things. Or you start hearing them say things to you that as a result of this training, you're thinking, yeah, something's not right there. That you have the tools to be able to not only listen and give them that support, but to help them to know what's out there. And thinking about some of the things that you might see in addition to people telling you, most women, and again, using the women as the victim in most cases, value how they look, right? They value their hair. And so if I'm an abuser, one of the ways if I want to hurt you might be to tear at your hair, to rip at your hair. Right? I had really never seen, until I started doing a lot of serious domestic violence cases, people with big patches of their hair torn out. Okay? It's pretty hard for there to be a good explanation of how patches of your hair are torn out. But if I wanted to make you feel badly about yourself, or be really embarrassed, or show you I had control over you, maybe I hack out pieces of your hair, or I tear out pieces of your hair. So you might very well, when you're working on somebody, be combing through and see these big patches of hair. I worked with a woman for a while where what her boyfriend would do is he would tear out the hair at the back of her neck. So when she had her hair, he wanted her going to work. So she had to look halfway normal. So when she combed her hair down, you didn't really notice it. But when you lifted up her hair in the back, there were big, giant spots where he had torn the hair out. Not other people aren't going to see that. Okay, when I'm passing people at Dunkin' Donuts, or I'm looking at you now, I'm not seeing those big spots on the back of your head. You're going to have the opportunity to see that and to think, what's up with this? Okay, what happened here? Your hair being all damaged. What's what you learned, I'm sure, in class, or have learned in class, that one of the biggest indicators of your sort of overall physical health is your hair. You're stressed. Think about living in kind of a war zone of a domestic violence situation. You're stressed all the time. You're going to start seeing some damage in your hair. So you might see damage in somebody's hair that's just really not consistent with whatever they've been doing with their hair. Well, you've got a 20-year-old girl who ought to have good, healthy hair, and it's just terribly, terribly damaged. It might be something else, but in combination with some of these other things, you should start thinking about what's really going on here. Again, the bumps and marks and scars. Remember, very often, people who are abusing their partner want them to still be able to go out, go to work. They want them to be able to carry on somewhat outside of the house. Okay? And they obviously don't want to get caught. Okay? That's one of the reasons that doctors have an enormously high rate of domestic violence, but very often don't get caught because they know how to hurt people where it doesn't show. So again, the same idea of bumps or bruises on the back of somebody's neck, damage behind their ear. Lots of times when people have been hit on the head, you'll see bruising behind their ear. Most people aren't going to see that. You are going to see that in the course of working with somebody. Your eyes. Many of you might have heard, or people sort of see on TV or whatever. One of the things that happens, one of the very common ways to abuse somebody is to grab them by the throat, to try to strangle them. And when that happens, when your air supply, when you're really gasping for air, you get those little broken blood vessels in your eyes. So you might be working on somebody doing makeup, doing a wax, whatever, and see really bad bruising, those petechiae, the little broken vessels in your eye. Those are often caused by people gasping for air. Right? Sometimes, the innocent explanation is, you've ever had a really terrible cold or cough or flu, and you're coughing and coughing and coughing. Sometimes you'll see those little broken vessels in your eye because you cough so hard. Well, the other way to get them is I cut off your air supply and you're gasping for air, the little vessels will pop in your eye. Okay? What happens when I'm attacking somebody? Somebody's attacking you. What's the first thing you're going to do? I put my hands on you. I go to reach for your throat. What are you going to do? Put your hands up. All right? That's why those are called defensive wounds. So you see people with a lot of injuries in here. Right? I bang my arm. I do the normal things that you do. You don't get damage in here usually. Okay? Those are very, very often some kind of defensive wounds. You've been coming at me and I've been putting my hands up, and now you've been scratching, biting. See people with bite marks on this part of the arm? There's probably not a good explanation for how those got there. Okay, so those are things that you see those on someone, you're going to be thinking what's going on. The other thing is, what happens when I come into the salon? Suppose I'm getting my hair colored, cut, washed, whatever. All right, I might be doing a lot of motion that other people aren't going to see. You're going to wash and cut my hair, right? You're going to bring me over to the chair. You're probably going to put the chair back, or I'm going to have to lean back. Right? If I've been kneed in the back, I've been held down by my throat, I might be very stiff and sore there. People seeing me in my normal day are probably not going to have noticed that. But you're trying to move somebody out of a chair, or you're trying to get them to scrunch their head back in the sink, and they're clearly in pain. Where'd they get those injuries? What caused them to have that kind of damage to the shoulders, their back? Okay, again, keep in mind, if I'm abusing you and I don't want people to know, I'm going to do it in places where your clothes are going to cover it up. Okay? So a good knee to the back, a good knee to the shoulders, 95% of the time you're going to have clothes on that are going to cover those up. But when I go to move, that's going to be very hard for me. Okay? You may see that where other people don't. The people who have a very scattered, they're missing appointments all the time, or suddenly start being somebody who misses appointments. They have weird excuses about why they can't come. And my personal favorite, and I saw this at the place where as I said, that I've been going for years to get my hair cut and really didn't start putting it together. Anytime somebody comes, right, to get some kind of salon service, somebody might drive them, their boyfriend, their husband might drive them, might pick them up, whatever. That's okay. They might go and get coffee while they're there. It's a little bit weird if you've got that boyfriend and that husband and they want to sit right here while you're working on them. Okay? I was going to the same place for years, and you're sort of on the same cycle with people sometimes, like almost every time you go to get your hair cut, it's 4 weeks for them, and you see the same people. I started noticing that this woman was always with this guy. Okay, most guys on Saturday morning don't want to sit around in the salon. All right, they're going to go get a coffee, they're going to go get something to eat, they're going to go do whatever. But he would sit, the little area where people can wait. He would be in the very last chair, so he was practically on top of the chair where she was getting service. What's that all about? Is that about what Sean talked to you about, that kind of control? Is it about I'm going to make sure you're not saying anything? Okay. You talked about financial control. People who you might suddenly see they don't want to pay, they don't want to tell someone how much something costs. They've got sort of a bizarre way of paying for something. They've got a handful of cash that they want to pay for part of it, but don't put the whole thing on their credit card because maybe they have to account for how they're spending their money. So maybe they're getting their hair cut and it costs whatever, and they don't want to have to tell the person that's abusing them, I spent that much money. So they scrimp together a little bit of money and they're going to put, $25 on their credit card and pay the rest in cash. Those are all kind of signs that things are a little bit odd. Right? Just that complaint of things like, for instance, people, it's the holidays. You're talking about what are you going to do? You see your family, you do whatever. No, my boyfriend doesn't like us to be with our family. Yeah, it's been you're going out with your friends tonight, that's really nice. It's been a long time since I've been able to go out with my friends. My boyfriend, my husband, he doesn't like me to go out with my friends. Okay, again, control. I want to make sure I know what's going on. I want to be sure that you don't have the opportunity to be telling other people or seeing other people. Because think about it. In order to keep you in a relationship where I'm abusing you and I'm controlling you, I have to make you feel like, number one, you're the cause of what the problem is. And you're just lucky to be with me. Okay? That's why part of the abuse is often verbal. You're fat, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're a lot of things. You're lucky you're with me. Okay? So I don't want you going out and having other people tell you you look pretty, or I'm too smart, or don't you do a good job. Because you might start thinking, I don't have to put up with this. I don't want that. So I want to cut you off from other people if I want to be successful at abusing you. One of the whole idea of I can't do anything with my hair, with my makeup, whatever, unless I check with my husband or my boyfriend. Okay? It's nice to think you consult your partner's views, but I got to ask my boyfriend if I can get my nails done. I've got to ask my boyfriend if it's okay if I, thread my eyebrows. That's the kind of control that, it might be nothing, but you put that together with other things, you might start thinking there's a problem here. The texting, the constant calling and texting. Again, it's like the sitting there. If I can't go off and get my hair cut and be at the salon for an hour and a half, that's an awful lot of control. Right? Or I'm checking in, or he's picking me up, he's outside, he's waiting. Or I got to check when I can make my next appointment. I have to see if I can come Thursday and get my hair cut. I got to ask my husband. Right? And that's different than, we have 4 kids and I got to figure out who's watching the kids. I got to see if he's going to let me come here. Okay? And one of the other things is, think about this in terms of putting yourself in the abuser's shoes. If I'm an abuser, and it's all about sort of the power and the control, one of the things that very often we see abusers want, I might be abusing you at home, but I want to look good to my friends. I, the abuser. And I'm a guy. I want to have this woman with me who looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm kind of torn. I'm really abusive to her. I don't like her out with anybody else. But I want her looking good. Because she belongs to me. It's like having a nice car. I want to make sure everybody thinks I have this nice-looking woman with me. So I sort of have to let her go to the salon. Okay? That's one of the things that puts you in a position to hear some of these stories. Is very often the abuser, as much as he doesn't want to, is going to let the woman go to the salon because he wants her to look really good. Right? And the other piece is that I feel, I'm the abuser, I feel, okay, majority of people there are going to be women, so maybe I'm sort of crazy jealous or I use that as an excuse, but okay, she's just going there with some women, and maybe that's a pretty safe place. So I want her to look good. The majority of people there are going to be women, so I'm not feeling too threatened by that. In some cultures, it's really sort of, going to the beauty parlor or going to the salon is really what women do. So my mother goes there, my sister goes there, I'll let my woman go there, because I feel like I kind of have control over that. Okay, that's another reason that as salon professionals, you're really going to have access that a lot of other people might not have. Because somebody who can be incredibly controlling really limits when the person can see their friends, see their family, will let them go to the salon. Okay? So that's a real opportunity for you. Yeah. So that's sort of, and when you hear that, I think there's a couple of things you got to have in mind. First, one thing is, you want to be helpful without crying, without putting people in a position where they might not be ready to tell you something. So it might be as simple as, I'm kind of worried about you. I notice every time you come in here, you're really sore, you're really stiff. Everything okay? Or I notice when you're here, you just seem to keep looking out the window the whole time. Because maybe you're afraid he's pulling up. Everything okay? Sometimes that's all people need, is just that opening, that somebody might care about them. The second part is, what's true in a salon for the most part? What's the setup? What's the layout? You're working really privately with people? No. Okay. So you got to be careful of that. Give people that you might be in a row of chairs. you're really worried about somebody, you want to say something, you're hoping they might say something, or you think they're on the verge of saying something to you, and yet you got all these people around. So you got to also kind of have that in your head, giving people a little bit of dignity and privacy about what they say. And the other piece of it is, what we hope, as someone mentioned to you earlier, is that when they do make that kind of disclosure to you, we're not asking you to go out and get involved and put yourself in danger or tell them what to do, but it really is to just say, you know what, I know some people who can help them. I have some great resources. I have some great partners. Maria's here. Police department's here. They can all help you and point them in that direction.